At least one day every month, our word, our meditation, and our affirmation are on the subject of let go, let God. And that's not by coincidence, is it? Because it's a fundamental part of the philosophy, the truth, learning that we have in this movement of unity. So let's explore first of all why it's so important, and then go on to talk a little bit about how we do it, what it is we let go of, and what is it that we are letting God do. What does God do as a result of that? Well, of course, unity doesn't have any creeds or dogmas that we are asked to subscribe to, but I guess it would be true that most unity students, most searchers after truth, would have some parts of their faith in common. And surely one would be that there is only one presence and power in our lives. There is only one ultimate, universal principle behind all creation. Some call it God. And it was Albert Einstein, wasn't it, in conversation with an Indian philosopher, Rabindranath Tagore, who agreed that behind matter was energy, behind energy was the unified field. And Einstein said, yes, ultimately I believe the unified field is love. And that love field behind all creation we call God. And we would go further, wouldn't we? We would say God is all goodness, all wisdom, all strength, all power. Anything that we perceive as good is of that essence, is of that created essence. And beyond that, we ourselves are of that essence too. We are God in expression. When the Bible said he made man after his own image, he didn't mean physically a body looked like God. He meant that we as mind, as spirit, as creative power are part of God himself. And we have, through that power, the ability to create a world, which we do. And here it is around us. And so if there is anything about that world that is not quite as we would perhaps wish to see it today, there is only one source that we can look to correct that, and that is within ourselves. God has made perfection, and perfection is there right now. Like the chap says, where is heaven? Where is the hereafter? Well, it's right here after you learn to see it. It is here, it is now. It is not in future, it is not far away. We don't have to die to go there. Jesus said 80 times, was it? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Again and again and again he referred to the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, and placed it fairly and squarely within us. And therefore, if there is anything in the way, guess who moved? Guess who put it there? We did. And only we can remove it. We have that power to let it go, to forgive it, to turn the other cheek and look the other way and see that greater reality, that divine order which exists now. And there is a book called The Course in Miracles, which I love to quote from because it hits right home on this. And let me read you one little passage from it, which says exactly what I've just been saying, but it uses certain words in specific ways. It refers to you and to me by our proper name, the Son of God, the daughter of God. And it talks about forgiveness, which is let go of outer appearances and learn to see reality. And it says, the real world is attained simply by the complete forgiveness of the old, the world you see without forgiveness. The great transformer of perception will undertake with you the careful searching of the mind that made this world and uncover to you the seeming reasons for your making it. In the light of the real reason that he brings as you follow him, he will show you there is no reason here at all. Each spot his reason touches grows alive with beauty, and what seemed ugly in the darkness of your lack of reason is suddenly released to loveliness. Not even what the Son of God made in insanity could be without a hidden spark of beauty that gentleness could release. So that's why we have this exercise month by month for at least one day, because it is through that release, through that forgiveness, that we will experience the joy that Angela just talked about to us, the freedom that our daily word meditation is about, and the life that Jesus said he had come for us to enjoy. So, you might then say, well, fine, how do I go about that? What is it exactly that I have to let go of? It's all very well saying let go of the world, but here we are with Rwanda and Bosnia and AIDS and cancer. What is it exactly do I do? And it seems to me that is a very valid question, because whether it's global challenges and problems that seem to us to be the problem, or whether it's our own personal lives, I have no money, I'm poor, my marriage is falling apart, whatever the problem may be, it's sometimes very difficult to see, well, where do I start? I may think I am the quotes, innocent party. I had a dear friend who had a particular challenge, and that her husband kept popping off to live with his girlfriend and then coming back to her and back to his girlfriend again and so on, and she said, fine, what is it exactly that I am supposed to let go? And it is not always immediately apparent. And sometimes we might say, well, particularly if we're new to these ideas, I come into here and I hear you talking about let go of fear, or let go of grievances, of stress, anger, a sense of wrongness in the world. Let those go. But those are me. If I let go of that, I'm going to be like the hole in the donut. You know, where's what's left of me after I've given that up? Well, let's take a look at it, because we know, of course, that what's left then, there is no gap. It's like the man said, when you take the pail of water, you're scared to take the pail of water out of the ocean because you'll leave a hole. No, the ocean will rush in and fill it up. And in our case, what's waiting to rush in right now is God. And that is strength and beauty, love and peace, just waiting for us to let go of worry and poor me, and ain't it awful? So, I would suggest, the way it seems to me right this moment, is there are three things that I might do well to give up. And the first one of those is the past. Now, the past can grab hold of me in two quite different ways. It's only now and again I realise that many of the things that I do, much of my behaviour, is not because I've decided that's how I'd like to behave. I say things and then I think, why did I make such a stupid comment? I didn't want to. That wasn't the sane, adult, calm Ken that made that comment. That was a frightened little child inside, conditioned somehow by parents or schools or upbringing or whatever it was in the past, to go through the same repetitive, defensive attitudes, or the kinds of behaviours that really are saying, please love me, I do need your approval. So while I might look as though I'm trying to be flashy and arrogant, really what I'm doing is say, please praise me, please, I need approval from someone because I just don't love myself enough. I just don't know who I am inside, and I haven't enough confidence and self-worth to hold together without it. And that kind of hold on the past is one that I very much need to let go. Sometimes that is so much part of my identity, because it's part of my upbringing. I'm a Lancashire lad, and I always will be. And that's part of my very nature. I'm British. You know, I have racial, national, job, family background which make me what I am. and yet some of that is holding me back from my greater good. There's another kind of the past that is almost the flip side of that coin, and that is where something is not subconscious and holding me back, but is conscious and familiar, and I daren't let go of it. I guess we've all known people in situations where they cling on, as it were, for dear life, to a situation that is clearly a total mess. People in disastrous marriages which have never been based on love, and yet, I can't do this. 10 years will be done. I've invested 10 years of this, the best years of my life. I can't give it up now. Where will I be? And it's very difficult sometimes to say. Where you'll be is free. Responsible for your own life, with new horizons. Maybe. Who knows? It's an individual decision, and it is let go and let God, not let go and let your next door neighbour. But nevertheless, I can, if I'm not careful, cling on to things because I think therein lies my safety. It's always been that way. We've always done it this way, and we're always going to do it this way. And again, like Eric Butterworth says, I'm a Methodist born, I'm a Methodist bred, and when I die, there'll be a Methodist dead. And, and we don't change. And yet, living in the now, living in the present is just letting go of all that, letting go of the fear, the guilt of the past, the fear of the future, and taking things as they are. I love this little story of this old lady crossing a road. I like to think she's a Unity student, but she's crossing the road, maybe a little bit carelessly, steps off the curb just as a taxi comes round the corner, and there's a screech of brakes, and he swerves round and hills to a stop, opens his window and shouts, "Look where you're going!" And she says, "Why? Are you coming back?" And do you get it? Her mind has already adjusted. That was the past. She's now on with the next thing. And that is part of what I mean by letting go. Letting go of all the guilt, no regrets about the past. Sometimes people say, that's wrong, you shouldn't say that. That's too harsh. If I have borrowed money in the past, I have a debt today, I need to pay it back. But if I am reliving a past hurt that I can't possibly change today, I am like the guy beating his head on the wall and saying it'll be nice when I stop. Total waste of time. There is nothing more true to me now that seemed more ridiculous when I was first told it than that. I no longer regret anything in the past. I don't wish to hide it, I can look at it, but there is no regret. The other thing, it seems to me, that's crucial to let go is other people. Or at least, in my case, trying to change other people. It's a long, hard lesson for me that there is nothing I can do which will change one iota what you think, or how you feel, or what you behave. I might believe I can do it, but I can't. And every time I think I know what's going on in someone else's mind, and I understand their motives, and if only I do this, he'll do that, and so on, I get it totally wrong. Absolutely and embarrassingly wrong. The word really is non-resistance, isn't it? Whether it's children or parents, wives or husbands, the government, the taxman. We cannot fight an outward appearance and hope to change an inward. We're fighting the effect instead of the cause. The cause is in our minds. The world we see is what we create. I remember many, many instances of that where they're rather trite and perhaps not very interesting, but to me they were great lessons because they were often great embarrassments. I remember a chap at work who used to come in not regularly but frequently unshaven. And I used to think, well, shall I have a word with him? You know, this is really not in keeping with the normal standards of dress and appearance in the company. On the other hand, you know, he's really not harming anyone by it. He's not representing the company outside. He's not in any way affecting the company's external image. But it was one of those little things that niggled slightly, you know. Some days he would have this growth and then it would disappear and then he'd have this growth again. And of course, in my mind, I built it up an image of him. I thought, he thinks this is smart, you know, this guy. He thinks he looks dashing and like one of the tough guy film stars, you know. This is what I think they call designer stubble. And therefore I formed an opinion of this guy that he was flashy and shallow and various other things. I apologise if you like designer stuff. Anyway, thank goodness I held my tongue, because it was only one day over lunch that we're chatting, and I happened to mention something about razors. I can't remember what it was, having lost my razor or something, and said to him, do you use an electric razor? And he said, I have a real problem. And I said, what's that? And he said, I have such sensitive skin that all my life, ever since I've started shaving, I have bled every day. And if I shave daily, I cut myself so badly that I have to have little plasters all over my face. And the only way I can manage it, what I try to do, is phase it so that I shave at night on a Monday and go through till the Wednesday or Thursday morning. But unfortunately, the number of days in a week means that it sometimes gets out of phase. So I'm turning up on a Monday, not being able to shave that morning. And of course, I felt totally different about him. And I realised that far from being flashy, this was something, you know, that to him was a great embarrassment already. And the last thing he needed was somebody else pointing it out. But Khalil Gibran says this so beautifully, doesn't he, in the Prophet, where he talks about children. Do you remember that one? I didn't bring it with me, but where he says, your children are not your children. They come through you, but not from you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for their thoughts are their own, and they belong to tomorrow, where you may not go with them. And it's slightly heart-rending to read, but it is so true, is it not? That we can lead by example, we can support and love. But the minute we try to control, direct, restrict and so on, the laws of the universe, at least in my experience, come right round, wham, and kick me from behind when I'm not expecting it. So dealing with other people is an area where I've had to let go time and time and time again and say, whatever the appearance of this person, let me draw that circle of love around them and let me learn to see the Christ in you with the Christ in me. Because at that level we are one and the same. We are not divided. Again, the Course in Miracles has a great deal to say about this, because it says that no meeting is by chance, that every person that I meet is an opportunity for forgiveness and growth. And as I learn to love and forgive you, so I am loved and forgiven. I am a wave. We often say this, don't we? It's as though you and I are waves on the surface of the ocean, and the ocean is the divine mind, the universal consciousness. And sometimes these waves interact and you don't get the effect immediately, do you? Like when a little wave comes up against the wall, it takes a little while and then it washes back again and becomes a wave in the opposite direction. And it seems to me that the working of the mind principle, demonstrating in the outer what I feel in my mind, is rather like that. It comes from a different direction, perhaps at a different time. As we know, if we give, we receive. but we receive perhaps in a different way from a different point. And the Course in Miracles says that about forgiving other people. It says, before you answer, pause to think of this. The answer that I give my brother is what I am asking for, and what I learn of him is what I learn about myself. And that's certainly been true in my life. And so that's the past and other people I need to let go of. And the third thing I need to let go of is wanting. It's my ego that says, I want things to be this way. You know, if only people would just listen for long enough till I explain to them very carefully how everything should be laid out and it'll all work out, everything would be fine. They keep interrupting. They keep going and doing their own thing. You know, it's like being a stage manager, you know, and if the actors would just learn their lines and let me put them in the correct places, the whole world would be wonderful. And many of us have that view. We tut-tut, we read the newspapers and we say, shouldn't be, that shouldn't happen, that's terrible. If it was a different way, the way I plan, it would be okay. And then we meet someone, find out what was behind the headlines and realise, just like my friend Jeff, we were totally wrong. And indeed, letting go of what I thought was the right way to proceed seems to me one of the big lessons of life. I've quoted before, but I love to quote again. Ignatius Loyola, a man of great charisma, brilliant intellect, tremendous drive, who founded the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits. And he founded them, as my understanding, I don't know very much about Jesuits, but the Society of Jesus, but I believe he founded the society as an elite, as those amongst the priesthood who were capable of the highest achievements, of great learning, great communications ability, great self-discipline, who could go forth and spread the gospel throughout the world with total obedience and loyalty. And he built up this movement until it became a powerful and dynamic force in Christendom. And I've no doubt that, if it's not the wrong word to use, he was justifiably proud of his achievement and felt that he was doing God's work according to God's plan. And then he was told that the Pope was pretty nervous about this because it was a potential threat to the discipline of the church as a whole, and there was a strong movement in the Catholic Church to have it banned. And Ignatius was asked, what would you do if the Pope was to ban the Jesuits? And he said, a quarter of an hour's prayer and I should think no more of it. And I thought, what a man. That is really wonderful to me. Not what I want, but let go and let the divine plan unfold. Even in our handing over to God, it can be sometimes that wanting gets in the way. Joel Goldsmith actually says it's impossible to achieve anything through God as long as one has a desire to achieve it. God is a jealous God. Perhaps that is what's meant by that term in one of the commandments, that God is a jealous God. That it is no good saying, God wants me to do this, so that's it. God wants me to build a church, found a movement, spread the gospel, whatever it is, that's it, I'm going to go out after it. If that is my aim, if I am suddenly putting all my energy into that, I am forgetting the prime thing, which is my nearness to God himself. My first duty is to hand over and let God work through me. Not say, thank you, God, for that package. I will now take that away. I will do it my way. I will achieve it. David often quotes the allegory in the Bible there, doesn't he, when there's a little story in the Bible that illustrates that. Moses, who represents the law, who represents the mind, attuned to the law of cause and effect. And that mind led the children of Israel, representing all our thoughts and our mental development, through the wilderness to right up to the borders of the promised land. But he was never allowed to go into the promised land. Why? Because he did a miracle, which was tapping a rock to get some water out. And when they all said, "Oh, my word, that was good. How did you do that? Do it again." He said, "Yes, it was rather good, wasn't it? I'm getting pretty good at this." And I was nearly said, and God said, "Right, you don't go in." But of course it doesn't work that way, does it? God never says, "No, you can't do this." No, no, no. The law says if our mind believes that we ourselves are the prime cause, that within us the strength lies, within me, I'm the smart guy, I will not enter the kingdom of heaven. I need to constantly let go and say, no, my strength comes from that inner spark, that divine consciousness. We call it the Christ within me, the God self. And as I allow that to be known and to be my perception, so I will enter into the kingdom of heaven or the promised land. So, that's about it. Now, I can't not say Harry Thompson's little poem, can I? Which is all about that. Because many of us find, okay, yes, I understand, I am willing even to take the first little step, which is trust. Because all of this needs some, or at least it seems to me, that there is some base requirement before I can do this. And that is some form of trust. I won't use the word faith because it doesn't have to be a formulated or thought out set of beliefs, but some trust that yes, there is something greater than myself, and that if I let go of this problem, goodness can follow. And yet very often it seems to take a long time, doesn't it? There seem to be frustrations and we don't know why. And there's a little poem about that, and it says, "As children bring their broken toys in tears for us to mend, I took my broken dreams to God because he was my friend. But then, instead of leaving him to work on them alone, I hung about and tried to help in ways that were my own. At last I snatched them back and cried, 'How could you be so slow?' 'My child,' he said, 'what could I do? You never did let go.'" So how do we let go? Well, I said first of all, of course there needs to be some trust. Just like learning to swim. We don't take our feet off the bottom till somebody tells us that it is all right, there is a possibility of swimming. And we need also, it appears to me, some honesty, some basic capability to say, yes, it is I that need to change. There is something that needs to alter here. And I've tried fixing them out there. I've tried and tried and tried. And it has to be me. Once I get that, then the process is just like we use in prayer.